Welcome to Pod 6, courtesy of Alan and John. We are continuing the research profiling segment, still using the solar cells data sets from Ying Guo, Lu Huang, and myself. So, what are we into now? These are hot topics. Those inherently derive from trend analysis. That is the change, in this case acceleration in activity over time. This slide reflects a transition from what could have gone in the previous section under trends to this section. You choose where you'd like it. What we're showing here is the dominant material in this type of solar cell, titanium dioxide, being compared with the up-and-coming rival, zinc oxide. And what we see is quite an acceleration in the last few years. In other words, zinc oxide is hot. Let's extend from this. And essentially, what do we mean by hot topics? Could be any topical term set that we're inclined to analyze. What we're using here is that kind of arbitrary top 20 key terms, mainly to give us a short list. It was taken from a top 82 key terms, taken from a much longer set of author keywords, keywords plus, title phrases, and abstract phrases. So you can see just right there a lot of ways you could handle it. If you really wanted nitty-gritty detail, you would like to look into the much more specific, much more novel terms that would be appearing in abstracts, or you might even choose just to focus on author keywords. It's a nice place to pick up something an author thinks is important and is not restricted to a standardized terminology, although authors may be inclined toward that just so their key terms are recognized. So anyway, we pick whatever topical terms we'd like. Those also could be general categories like the subject categories from Web of Science that we've been dealing with. We then combine them with a temporal marker. Here we're using publication year. If you were dealing with patent data, for instance, you'd have a pretty rich set of choices. You could go as specific as the day on which a patent was granted, up to year, or multi-year periods if you wanted to collapse those. You could also use different dates. What date was a patent filed, the application date, a publication date, certain databases give, like Derwent, the patent granted date, or the priority year for a whole patent family. So obviously these analyses would vary in it. Pick whichever seems to give you the best clues for what you'd like. So anyway, here is a basic profile. We've taken the top 20 terms, and a couple of ways to do this. I made sub-data sets for the two periods that are represented here. So within Vantage Point, using publication year, I pulled out a sub-data set for 2001 to 06, and then the complementary data set for 07-08. That gives me a nice handle on a number of things I might do from that. Other ways you could do that, you could make the similar groups within Vantage Point and do other manipulations. I'll leave that to your imagination. Here I've then gone and made a ratio of how many times did a given term, and up at the top of the list is conjugated polymer, occur in the more recent period to how many times in the earlier period. So you can see for conjugated polymer, even in this short period, it occurred more frequently there than before. The very bottom of the list, just as a benchmark, looked at the ratio of occurrences in the most recent 2 years to the earlier years for all 20 terms. And you can see it's 0.44. So based on that, I've gone up and said, I've indicated by red and bold, the terms in this list are more frequent than the average. So again, you could pursue your analyses whatever way you saw suitable. Important to recognize, you could set the boundary wherever you would like between recent and earlier. I chose this kind of year and a half, 07-08 period, arbitrarily. Okay? Onward and upward. New topics via list comparison. This is kind of what I just went through to describe. In terms of setting up the data sets, I used them again. In this case, we're looking not just for hot topics, but for anything brand new. Now realize if we've taken the 20 really prominent key terms for the whole period, it's maybe pretty unlikely that we'll find something really novel at the tail end. So in this analysis, I used list comparison. In the 2007-08 data set, I took that keywords list and under groups chose list comparison, chose the unique option, and compared it to the comparable list for the 2001-06 file or data set. 2 terms popped up as novel. Both are pretty suspect. If we really wanted to make something of it, I think we'd like to look at those abstracts and figure out why are those terms appearing for the first time in 07, because they're pretty general terms. Hints to come yet. Okay? Vantage Point has several macros that do variations of terms by year. There's terms by first year, terms by latest year in which they occur. Here I used one of these to generate what you're seeing on this slide and the next one. This is a report for terms by first year. So in this case, I used the 82 key term set to get something a little bit richer. And what we see overall, here's the number of records by year. Recall 2008 is down because it's a part year, not because the topic is lost popularity. Now here are these prominent 82 terms. Most of them appeared for the first time in 2001. And then some were added, and then a very few over time. So this gives us an overall sense that this is a pretty established area. Again, we could use different topical sets to get a different perspective. Continuing that same report, I just pasted in which new key terms first appeared in years 2005 and following. You can see not very many of the 82 terms are in these recent years. And again, some are pretty suspect. Device. Here's our friend deposit and characterize. Even more suspicious. Characterize only appears in 2007. I don't think this is a really substantive activity changing. But you could pick up on some of these others. Titanium dioxide film. You'd have to probe to check with some experts in the area. But is it meaningful that this came on the scene in 05 and has continued since then to be fairly popular? So 21 of 29 hits are in these more recent years, just not tallied here, because we're just showing the first year. So I get the feel here for picking up a progression of activity. Okay? That's kind of what we've got here. Let me add a note, a couple of notes. One is you can take the same logic and look for entities changing over time. other than topical terms. So, for instance, using the same modus operandi, we could identify new or recent entrants to the research field. For instance, by looking for the first papers on the topic authored by a given organization or country or whatever unit you'd like. Another variant is the inverse, to look for which participants appear to have abandoned the topic and in which years. In this case, that would be no publications by organization O since the year whatever. Okay? And that's where we are on this. Let me just close with one caution. In analyzing data sets such as come from Web of Science, recall that we're not getting the latest research. What we see here is research that has accumulated significant timeline. Just imagine the sequence. The aha in the lab, research discovery. Takes some time for the researchers to sort it out, synthesize exactly what they've got, properly think through the nuances, then write it up, then probably submit for publication to a journal, go through review processes that can take some time, and then appear. These days that's quicker than it used to be because there's electronic publication mechanisms, even for print journals. And then it has to be indexed. That is, the Web of Science folks have to pick it up and include it in the database. So all told, what are we talking about? It's hard to estimate precisely, but a year or more. There's exceptions to that with some fast publication outlets and so on. But what I would do, if we identified something that we said, hey, this really is an interesting hot topic, would be to check on the web and check with experts to find out what's happening lately with that topic. So pick up the newest renditions of it. Okay, until next time, bye.